of all the people, Ringo Star despised her the most. Born Richard Starkey in the King's Last neighborhood of Dingle in Liverpool, England, Ringo Star came into this world on July 7, 1940. From modest origins, she blossomed into one of the most adored personalities in the annals of popular music. There was a lot of trouble in H.A.'s childhood. He had a difficult upbringing due to H.A.'s family's financial struggles and several health problems. Ringo missed a lot of school and had to miss a lot of time in recovery due to H.A.'s lengthy hospital stays as a child due to illnesses including TB and peritonitis. H.A.'s training. Despite this, H.A.'s strength of character and gratitude for life were molded by these challenging times. As he spent countless hours in the hospital, he unconsciously laid the groundwork for H.A.'s career as one of the most iconic drummers in the world by discovering H.A.'s love for rhythm and playing drums on bedpans and tables. Ringo was an apprentice joiner and machine operator in a Liverpool industry before becoming famous on a global scale. But he could not control H.A.'s love of music. He picked up the drums after being influenced by skiffle in the early days of rock and roll, playing in local bands before becoming a member of Ringo Star and the Hurricanes, a prominent group in Liverpool during that period. He was sensitive to H.A.'s operdimian and energetic drumming style. By 1962, the call of destiny had arrived there. Ringo was asked to fill in for the white Peter Best, the original drummer of the Beatles, team up with George Harrison, Paul McCartney, and John Lennon. He was the last piece of the puzzle that will alter the trajectory of music history. In H.A.'s time as the Beatles drummer, Ringo Star established a reputation for a solid arrhythmic, creative feels, and impeccable timing. H.A.'s musical contributions were crucial to the band's distinctive sound, however he remained in the background most of the time. H.A.'s skill at adding nuanced yet strong arrhythmic work to melodies was on full display in songs such as Rain, Ticket to Ride, and A Day in the Life. Fans loved the Ringo for more than just H.A.'s drumming. He was beloved for H.A.'s charming demeanor and hilarious antics. He also sang lead vocals on other Beatles songs, such as Octopus Garden, Yellow Submarine, and With a Little Help from My Friends, all of which showcased H.A.'s friendly, easygoing personality and innocent amusement. In 1970, after the Beatles broke up, Ringo Star downplayed their significance. Rather than settle for being only a drummer in a popular band, he decided to pursue a solo career. Both of H.A.'s 1970 solo albums, Sentimental Journey and Backers of Blues, demonstrated H.A.'s admiration for and ability to play a wide variety of musical styles, including jazz standards, pop, and country. H.A.'s 1973 album Ringo was a worldwide smash, with tracks like U.S. and Photograph reaching the top of charts all over the globe. Audiences responded strongly to H.A.'s irreproachable, accessible attitude, and he continued to forge strong bonds with H.A.'s old Beatles comrades through their collaborations long after the band broke up. End of relationship. Ringo Star had a prosperous career in movies and acting, in addition to H.A.'s music. Hits started with Peter Sears in a number of films, including Kerman, 1981, Happy the Day, 1973, and The Magic Christian, 1969. The Inherent. He captivated audiences on screen and with H.A.'s natural charisma and spot-on comic timing. Afterwards, he branched out into children's television narration and voice acting, bringing H.A.'s endearing, charismatic character to a whole new audience through his work on Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. Storytelling. After that, for decades, Ringo were on touring and recording with his all-star band, which featured legendary artists from all over the world. BOI including Beatles songs, solo successes, and H.A.'s on compositions into H.A.'s concerts. He transformed them into lively celebrations of friendship, honesty, and music. Camaraderie in band. H.A.'s impact as a drummer also kept expanding, with other musicians praising H.A.'s technique, taste, and subtle brilliance. In 2018, Ringo was warmly knighted by Queen Elizabeth II for his cultural and musical achievements. He is now known as Sir Richard Starkey, a much-deserved tribute to a man who was instrumental in creating contemporary popular music. The ups and downs of Ringo Starr's life mirror the upheaval of H.A.'s time as a renowned Beatle and the rock-solid love he discovered in H.A.'s later years. H.A.'s marriages to Barbara Bach and Malone Cox were two distinct periods in H.A.'s life. Trip Each characterized by unique feelings, difficulties, and development of character. Maureen Cox, a hairdresser from Liverpool who had been a lifelong Beatles fan before she met Ringo, was Ringo's first wife. Their tale started in the early 1960s, during the height of Beatlemania around the world. Maureen and Ringo first crossed paths at the Vancouver club, the legendary underground hangout where the Beatles developed their sound and loyal fan following. Even though the band was in the midst of total anarchy when Maureen and the other members met, their love for each other blossomed rapidly. Renowned for his amiability and sense of humor, Ringo was profoundly drawn to Maureen because of his steady demeanor. She didn't see the world with phenomenon that was Ringo Star. Rather, she saw Richard Starkey, the guy behind the drums. On February 11, 1965, during the peak of the Beat stardom, the couple tied the knot. As thousands of admirers flocked to the ceremony, it sparked a media frenzy, looking forward to seeing the happy couple at the registrar. Members of the Beatles in a circle, including George Harrison and John Lennon, were among the guests at the touching event. It is quite surprising how devoted and strong Maureen was over those years. As Ringo explored the world and dealt with the stresses of popularity, Maureen stayed at home in England and protected him and their expanding family from the glare of the paparazzi. 3 Starkey children, such Jason and Lee, were born to the couple. In due time, the two would become a lover, just like each father before him. Highly esteemed drummer who has shared the stage with legendary acts like Ashes and The Who. Their marriage, however, started to suffer major problems as the years went by and the Beatles split up in 1970. The demands of stardom, extended separations, and the allure of rock and central life were too much. Even Ringo has said that he had a hard time following the split of the Beatles and that he resorted to drinking and leading a wildly chaotic lifestyle. The family grew farther apart despite Maureen's best attempts to keep them united. They divorced in 1975, according to official records. Notwithstanding this, they maintained a bond through their children and continued to appreciate one another. Maureen Cox tragically died of leukemia in 1994 at the young age of 48. Ringo was severely impacted by her death because he was there in her last days. In retrospect, he saw her as one of the most authentic and kind individuals he had ever encountered. An authentic aspect of which is existence that he would never let go of. Barbara Bach, an actress and model famous for playing Anna Mosova, the Bond girl in the 1977 James Bond film The Spy Who Loved Me, was Ringo's weekend of fame after he had spent years introspecting and changing himself. On the set of the action film in 1980, they crossed paths. Coveman, a comedy film in which they starred. There was an instant and indisputable connection between them. After meeting Barbara, Ringo remarked, "Love at first sight." He went on to note that, in contrast to the child of his younger years, Barbara introduced an air of elegance, tranquility, and emotional stability into his life. Rapidly developing into a marriage, they tied the knot on April 27, 1981, in a grandiose ceremony at London's Marriott Hall, the same location where Paul McCartney had tied the knot with Ian Eastman more than 10 years previously. That so plus peaceful union was celebrated by friends, family, and fellow artists. Support and camaraderie amongst individuals. Barbara had a significant role in encouraging Ringo to face his addiction head-on. A life-altering choice was made by Ringo and Barbara in the late 1980s when they both checked into treatment together. Frequently, Ringo attributed his emotional and mental salvation to Barbara. Physically, attesting that his path to sobriety and stability was greatly aided by her love and care. Their marriage has stood the test of time and continues to be a source of admiration for those in the entertainment business. Despite the demands of fame, Ringo and Barbara have created a peaceful and fulfilling existence as a couple, eventually parting ways. They split their time between Los Angeles, Monaco, and England. Their mutual support for environmental preservation and addiction rehabilitation initiatives is one of their most yielding humanitarian causes. In addition to their mutual devotion to love and peace, Barbara and Ringo share Ringo's philosophy. Is commonly heard performing musical and artistic works. Many have looked up to the Beatles as a model of musical brotherhood throughout the years. A quartet of Liverpool youths who, united, altered the course of history. Despite the millions of people who were enthralled by the fame and honesty, kan likt verkeerd. Seemed to within the group, some is going back further 10 years outside the group now. Ringo Star looked up to George Harrison, the SHY Beatle, and played with him while the Beatles rose to fame and fortune. However, as time went on, their relationship was contaminated with envy, treachery, and personal slights, which ultimately led to Ringo admitting afterwards that he had resented George more than anyone else he had ever encountered. If you asked Ringo, George was like a brother to me. He would ask, brothers, thou will occasionally battle harder than for the years of pent-up anxiety were conveyed by those remarks. Despite his reputation as a Beatles piece make, Ringo's splotched voice believed the pent-up tension he carried around with him from their years of fame. Ringo became famous after joining the band as a replacement for Peter Best in 1972, the final member rare to do so, the man who had accompanied John George. Lennon and Paul McCartney viewed Ringo with the sort of superiority of an not crew, but as someone who had been there first from the very beginning. George could be distant. Ringo remembered it. At times, he made me feel like I am outsider in each word, with each on beliefs and everything. It was during the growth later years, when members' egos and artistic inspiration started to drive a huge between them, that tension reached a boiling point. George felt unappreciated as a songwriter due to the prominence of Lennon and McCartney. During this time, Ringo found it difficult to establish himself in a band, as his musical abilities were frequently overlooked. Ringo admitted that there were times when I was reluctant to even step foot in the studio. There was a severe lack of a contact between George and me. I had hidden out of feeling unnoticed. Cast and crew members felt the strain during filming 1969 late ITB. The stress was too much for Ringo to bear, and there were times when he stormed off in tears. What ultimately became entwined in their personal lives, though, was what finally broke Ringo's devotion for George. A brief biography was written on Richard Starkey, who was Ringo's wife during the time. Lover with George throughout the early 1970s. Even though George was also married to Patty Boyd at the time, the news struck Ringo like a bolt of lightning. The betrayal hit him hard, he said years later. This was about more than just a woman. It all came down to fate. Someone I considered family crossed an uncrossable line, and that was the plot point. One of the worst things that happened to Ringo was the affair, which left him bitter against George and Dingle for a long time. To put it frankly, I despised him for what he did, Ringo declared. I really did. Angry feelings didn't fade through fast. I stayed with me for a long time too. Later on, George admitted his error, albeit he did not always do it with utmost contriteness. Ignoring the situation, he allegedly said to Ringo, well, you know, all things must pass out. The comment, which was a play on his record title, angered Ringo because he saw it as a killer's disregard for the harm that he'd been done. According to Beatles insiders, Ringo stayed far away from George 4 months following the revelation of their affair, and even when they did cross paths again, their discussions were anxious and uninspiring. As Ringo pointed out, we couldn't merely grab a guitar and a drumstick and fix everything. Music failed to suit that wound. However, Ringo's proven spirituality and forgiveness started to show itself as time went on. Over time, he thought about the significance of friendship and the pointlessness of harboring resentment. At the end of the 1990s, George was diagnosed with cancer, and Ringo, putting aside his animosity, went to see him at his bedside. I whispered to him that I loved him. Ringo recounted gently. Love triumphed over all odds after everything that transpired. Hey, I preferred not to depart from this realm while harboring resentment toward you. The years of stress supposedly vanished as George grinned and took his hand. Ringo was one of the first to speak out publicly about his friend George Harrison after his death in 2001.